Good. Here I am with my friend Ben. And before I ask, some questions about peace and perhaps even war, I would like to start with a vision I had a couple of weeks ago. And that was the reason I wanted to reach out to Ben and really dive a little deeper into the Peacekeeper project he's running. So a couple of weeks ago, I dreamt about war, but it was very vivid. The vision was really, there was a very, clear sense of a layer of the earth of the past. And I was wondering in that dream, why do I have to see that? Because the war, it was devastating, there was poverty, there was suffering. And but I was shown these images just to see how much suffering there is in the world, and not just in the world, but also what war brings to us human and to humanity. And in that dream, in that vision, for me, it was clear when I woke up, okay, it's about peace. It's about bringing more peace, bringing peace to people individually. And once they grow in peace, it's much more easier to bring also people to, to a bigger spectrum of society and companies and perhaps nation. That would be really great. So here I am with my invitee, Ben. Thank you for joining. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. It's great to be here.
And I would like to start straight away because you created this beautiful project, the Peacekeeper Project. And for us both, it's so important to work within, to have a peaceful mind or mindset, and then give that not to the world. How did it come forward for you to start the Peacekeeper Project? Would you develop a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. So originally my inspiration was, well, my background has been meditation and stillness and inner work for, 20, 25 years. And I got to this point where I had this inspiration to work with the police department because I figured in my mind they're a sense they're a kind of peacekeeper, like they're here to maintain a certain peace in the world. Um, but as I sat with that more, it was more like, well, a peacekeeper isn't someone outside. It's not like we want to give someone else the job of doing this because ultimately, if we want to create peace in the world, we need to know what peace actually is. Not just a word that we can use it to manipulate and do things we want to do. And it can be done that way, but to actually know peace inside, when we feel it like inside, then we act from a space of peace and we act very differently. We feel more connected to the people around us. And so I thought, well, the peacekeeper isn't someone outside, the peacekeeper is us. So that's the Peacekeeper Project to become the peacekeeper, to become the people that know peace inside and radiate that out into the world and can anchor that into the world.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Like you
Mhm.
say, when I started like 20, 25 years ago, when I started with personal development, when I discovered meditation or yoga, I was not at peace at all. I was
Mm.
anxious. I was very nervous. I have PTSD, symptoms all over. And thanks to, the inner work and to the perseverance, to really go deeper and deeper and deeper within, slowly, it's not just peace, but also a certain being more patient and understanding not just myself, but other people as well. Like you say, peace, sometimes it can be a fancy word, but peace has so many other qualities deep within.
Mm.
What is your experience with when you feel peace? What are other qualities you feel in peace?
Mm. I think that for the thing that stands out for me the most is stillness, like this just permeating stillness. It permeates everything and it's always there in the background and our mind is usually too busy to recognize it and rest on it. But when that's there, you feel more peace, or I feel more peacefulness. At peace, so when I feel peace, there's always stillness in the background, and there's other qualities that come out of that. But I think stillness is really the biggest one in the background of peace. But But it's more than stillness. Again, these are words that can be somewhat abstract, or we have ideas and beliefs about what it is or should be. Whereas when we actually experience these things, it's quite different because in stillness or in peace, there is also this unwavering quality of like stillness of peace. It's not like peacefulness is timid or anything like that. It's more like it's just this grounded stillness and peace, unwavering. So there are qualities like that that stand out that when we experience it, it's really something different.
Mm. Thanks,
Yeah.
Ben. Like you say, just listening to you, I feel the ocean. Maybe because we
Mm.
both live close to the ocean or we are very keen with the ocean. But
Yes.
today in the meditation, I felt in my whole, like in this area, there was a moment I felt the ocean, like a very
Mm.
calm watery quality of oceanness. And like
Yeah.
you said, there was stillness, there was depth, there was a certain clarity, and also there was gratitude. And like you say, it is sometimes peace or stillness. It is just how to put that sometimes into words.
Yes.
You have to experience it. Mm,
Yes, totally. And yeah, I mean, water is a great one because I mean, for so many reasons, water is like when you see it and it's perfectly still, then you can see these perfect reflections of, the landscapes around mountains or whatever it might be. But that's because there's perfect stillness. And when we're still, we also have more clarity of mind. So the water is a good reflection of that.
yeah.
And the other thing about water too is that like water is so fluid and moving, but there's an unwaveringness in water. It's not trying to be something else. Water is water, and if you've been in the ocean when in waves, you know it's also quite powerful.
Definitely, definitely.
Hmm.
I think Bruce Lee said that once. Be
Mm.
water, my friend.
Something
Mm,
like that. I've heard that. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
You see, and that comes, I always tell, the people I work with, becoming subtle, there's a
Mm.
lot of power.
Mm.
It's something's mysterious. How is it possible that becoming subtle or becoming like a water, suddenly there's so much, power or sometimes a certain strength, and it is just, the both opposites, like meeting
Hmm.
each other there.
Hmm. Well, I think it's also the this power that comes from letting go of the mind. Like we
Mm,
think we can create power in the mind by different mind games or like manipulating people or things like that. But it's like when our mind just becomes quiet, we become more subtle, um, which is a good word too, subtle, becoming more subtle. But it feels subtle in the beginning, but as you become more subtle and it's less subtle, and it's a stability inside. It's a power it just comes from inside. It's not
mm.
something we try to create with the mind.
Yeah. And you just mentioned power. Sometimes
Mm.
people think about power or having a powerful mindset.
Hmm.
And just recently, or the last years, the more I connect with this silence, this stillness, this peace, the more I realize, wow, in the past, before I started, this inward journey, I was really trapped in a world of greed. Greed
Mm.
about wanting to earn money, wanting to be successful. There was competition involved, and it was always a kind of power struggle.
Mm.
And back then I was not aware of all that because we just get educated. We need to be, like have money, and we need to be rich, and we need to be successful. There is so much pressure, at least where I grow up, in the society and even my family background. But once I discovered, or really because I had several illnesses and I needed to solve my illnesses at a deeper level, I also came to this stillness and silence and peace. And from there saw, oh my gosh, how greedy I was in the past,
Mm.
or a power that was really not, that didn't have integrity.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that points to this. It's like a grasping. It's like the mind, the ego, whatever you want to call it, this conditioned part of ourself, it has a certain grasping, and we want to do things. It's like we want to get things, and we don't when we grow up in it, we don't take much time to reflect. It's you're in it, so you don't pay much attention to it. But it's like you say, it's not until we start learning to quiet our mind, to become more still, to find more peace, that we realize by contrast that there's a grasping, whereas there's this attempted grasping at power, whereas or strength or confidence or whatever you want to call it, versus this unwavering power or strength that just is like the sense of I. It's
No,
not an
definitely.
I dependent on things that you do. It's just like I
Yeah.
exist, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You see, like the power, not behind the grasping of power,
Mm.
and versus being at peace and experiencing a different power, a power
Hmm.
that is just more aligned
Yes.
with the deeper essence. Mm. And
Hmm.
I think because we just speak about, you see, like having power from a more peace, no, peaceful mindset and
Hmm.
stillness versus a grasping one. How do you help your clients or students, go from one to another, or how do you help other people? How do you work?
Yeah. I mean, it's often very tailored to work with individuals, so everyone's a little bit different. So I'm talking to people differently, but I guess to generalize, it's well, firstly, is noticing the grasping. So meditation, I think, is a really important part of that journey inwards, um, because that's when you start to quiet your mind, or you attempt to, and then some people are more natural, and others you just realize how busy your mind is. It's like you start to realize that contraction, that grasping, and the meditation. It's like training that muscle of the mind
Mm,
to let go, but not like a letting go of, it's hard to describe, but it's a letting go of the grasping into something more powerful, more stable. So meditation's an important part of exercising that muscle, that awareness, and then emotional work as well. So working on emotions, but also just in day-to-day life, starting to pay attention to your emotions. When you start doing things, noticing how you actually feel, like is the impulse to do that thing or to get that thing, is there a sense of grasping maybe in your chest, solar plexus or belly? Like is there a grasping versus, when you do something else, it's more joyful, there's more flow. Like how does that feel? Like there's a sense of something that flows through us. It's not grasping.
yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Hmm.
And especially nowadays in our society, which is going so fast
Hmm.
forward, how to really be in that kind of, awareness of feeling the grasping and not being
Hmm.
drawn by all this, you know, big forces. Just when we go
Yes.
out of the house door and we close and oh, traffic and work come to us.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more stimulations, a lot more things these days just vying for our attention, like pulling us outward. And yeah, unless we take time to actually cultivate that inner stillness, to cultivate that reconnection to something of ourself inside, then we're always going to be caught up being pulled outward into the world. And that just creates more grasping.
Yeah. And here comes again, like you said before, the word training. On one
Mm,
side, training this inner muscle of awareness,
mm,
of consciousness to be more present, to be more still, but also the training about emotions, about grasping. When I speak with someone, when I drive in the car and someone comes into my line and,
mm,
oh, and to be self-aware, it
mm,
takes training, it takes training,
mm,
it takes whoever is listening to this podcast, this interview, please, um the same way we need to train our body sometimes to be more flexible, or you want to be more stronger, have more muscles, the same we need to train
mm,
our mind through meditation or through different practices that go inward, but also, like I just said, this to the daily activities to be more
Mm-hmm.
mindful when the
Mm-hmm.
grasping kicks in and accelerates mm, a certain doing or reactive, like the domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. And this training is exactly right. It's like we have to train ourselves. It's like if you wanted to go and, I don't know, compete in some activity, say, I don't know, tennis, you wanted to compete and you decide you're just going to rock up. You've never played tennis before. You go there, you're probably not going to succeed very well. But, if you train beforehand, whatever the sport may be or activity, then you go there, then you're more competitive. You're going to succeed more. It's like, but this is like stillness, emotional work, peace. This is training for the world, like for everyday life. It's a life skill. So it's not like when stressful things happen, now you try to figure out how to deal with it. It's more like, no, you trained yourself so those stressful things are not stressful to start with. And then even if they are, you know
Mm.
how to navigate it. It's like you're ready.
And how do you train people? Is it more like an individual one-to-one, or is it more like a group setting, or you have online courses? How do you train people? Or is it weekly, fortnightly, or is it here and then, in person, online?
I mean, it varies. More recently, it's more one-on-one. I've done more group courses online and in person in the past. I do have some online courses as well, like some free, some more in-depth paid programs. But that's how I work. And a lot of the time, like I said, at the moment, it's more one-on-one. And I really like working one-on-one because everyone's a little bit different, so you can really talk to them, listen to them, and help them understand themselves, understand the way they function at work and help them to navigate that. So, I mean, there's
Mm.
a beauty in groups as well. Like, I love that as well. But at the moment, this is more what I've been doing. So,
Yeah, isn't
yeah.
it beautiful then? Because I love also to work in groups, but one-on-one, because every person is just so different. When we
Hmm.
start working, or like you say, helping the person to understand themselves better or
Hmm.
dive a little deeper within, and suddenly there are certain qualities or new sensations arising, and they
Yeah.
are kind of flabbergasted. What is this? Is this
Yes.
really, happening?
Hmm. Or it's like because you get to talk to them more, so they share more with you, and it's like you can start to see some more of the story of their life, and it's like sometimes it's just a matter of they say something, it's like, well, you kind of shift it from a different perspective, and it's like they've never looked at it from that perspective, and you can see them go, oh, like in a moment, like you can see something like tick, tick, tick. It's like something's about to shift. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so there's something beautiful about the one-on-one work. Yeah.
Yeah, because what we actually do, we help people opening the
Hmm.
perspective, the mind, the worldview, instead of
Hmm.
having a certain, no, this is like that,
Hmm.
going within into the stillness and to the peace. It really helps to open to this inner ocean
Hmm.
of different possibilities, opportunities, and people start looking at, no, see
Hmm.
maybe themselves differently and also other
Yeah.
people. Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, because all of those beliefs that we have, I mean, sometimes they help us to navigate the world, but then sometimes those beliefs, when they're strongly held, they're limits. They're limits to like some greater understanding or knowledge, and whatever they might be, we have to be ready
Mm.
to let them go. If we really want stillness and peace, we have to be ready and willing to see the things we believe that may not be true. Yeah.
Yes, so true, so true.
Yeah.
So true. Because even us, even after 20, 25 years, sometimes there are little veils of ignorance. And the
Hmm.
more peace, at least in my case, speaking, sometimes in a deep meditation retreat, sometimes little veils are lifting off. And
Hmm.
suddenly I see more light and I see with more clarity certain topics from a different perspective, anew.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I
Yeah.
say, oh my gosh, Alex, ignorant,
Yeah.
like a kid.
It's like, how did I not see that for the last
Yeah.
40 years or something like that? Yeah.
Mm. Hey, Ben, how
Mm.
did you arrive to meditation? How did you discover meditation, or what was your initiator? Or
Yeah. Yeah. So At the time, I was studying massage, shiatsu massage, and I was fascinated in, the acupuncture points, meridians, and the energy and those things. And my brother had started meditating, so he'd got into it, and he was trying to convince me. And at the time, I was like, "Oh, yeah, not sure." And then I don't know, we just kept talking and talking about different ideas of like energy and like energy circulations in the body and meditation and something just started to he planted a seed, I guess, and something started to come to fruition and then I went to a meditation weekend um, workshop and that was it. That was like 2001. Yeah, so 2001 I went to that workshop and yeah, it was like that's it. Like I'm ready. Like there's something about this. But it's also interesting because in the beginning it was like I had a pretty strong mind, like, and not in a good way for for meditation, because I didn't experience a whole lot, and I think this is good for people to hear because sometimes when people come into meditation in the beginning they're expecting these grand things, and when they don't happen, it's like, oh, it's not working, so they stop and they give up. But for me, that weekend workshop. I remember it was like there was something exciting about being there. It's like I wanted to know, understand, like, I've watched Star Wars and the Force, you kind of inspired by these things, so you want to know more. But I was there and we were doing the meditations and then we split off into groups and you'd share experiences and I remember listening to some of the people share their experiences and I'm thinking, wow, that's really cool. But there's this another part of me in the back of my mind going, is that for real? Because like, are you making that up? Because I'm not getting any of that. Like, I wasn't getting any of those experiences to start with, but it was exciting. But I didn't give up. Like, there was something exciting there that I wanted. So I just was consistent in my practice, and over years, something started to open up, and I started to have experiences, and I also realized that I was having some experiences, but they weren't quite like other people were describing them. So I was like looking for things just how they had them, but mine were different. So yeah, we just have to be patient.
Yeah,
And sometimes there are really subtle things we're experiencing, but we don't notice. But when we can start to notice the subtle things, then we can go, oh, like actually something is working. And you're more motivated to continue.
yeah, no, definitely, definitely. What I always say in my individual sessions or group sessions or retreats when I run them, always we have to let go of the expectations because people have expectations. They come to a session, a
Hmm.
retreat, and they want to experience something. But again, the grasping or strong mental mindset, or I want to
Hmm.
feel, I want to see, it is just the wrong, the
Hmm.
wrong space. And so,
Yes.
just sometimes in the beginning, helping or telling people, hey, let go. It's about
Hmm.
becoming more subtle. It's about becoming more like a feeling. It's about letting go. Mm. It takes
Hmm.
time. It's a practice of being more patient. It takes time. And sometimes I give my examples because I was very blocked
Hmm.
for many, I would say even sometimes years. I had here and then
Hmm.
experiences, but other times I was really, really blocked, and especially
Hmm.
with men, because
Hmm.
men, we get educated as a little boy already. Boys
Hmm.
don't cry, and
Hmm.
by not allowing us to cry or being vulnerable, we already create this, this armor.
Hmm.
And I see that with women, it's easier. What I see so far in this also this last 10, 15 years working with people with women, it's a little easier than working with men. What is your experience on that?
Yeah, I think definitely a bit of that, like that, what we've grown up with, like what's okay, what's not okay to express. Um, and I think like from my experience too, there's this sensitivity, right? Um, and I guess, and that's the word that needs a little bit of defining because sometimes we use the word sensitivity to mean a variety of things. And when it's too vague, it doesn't help because people sometimes get caught, oh, you're too sensitive because we might be crying or reacting to something. But there's sensitivity when someone's saying, "Oh, you're so sensitive because you're reacting." But there's also this sensitivity as an ability to feel and perceive. So there's sensitivity as like a reaction to something. Someone says something, you're offended, and we call that being sensitive. Okay, so there's maybe some emotional work that needs to be done around that. It's like we don't want to
Mm.
be offended by everything. We want to be in that stillness and stability. But then there is sensitivity as an ability to feel and perceive, which, as a fundamental functionality of human existence, it's a foundation. Without the ability to feel and perceive things, there's no awareness. And without awareness, you can't improve yourself, you can't turn inwards. So sensitivity as a reaction, that's something different, which we just need to be more um, disciplined in when we're saying sensitivity, we need to know there's a difference,
Yeah, define
right? Because
sensitivity.
sensitivity can sometimes be called a weakness, but if you think sensitivity is the same thing, then your ability to feel and perceive gets shut down. And I think when I was young, like I think I was quite sensitive, but I used to feel a lot and some of the energy around places, like it would make me feel uncomfortable or unsafe. So I would shut down some of my sensitivity. Like I didn't want to feel so much. And I remember our next door neighbor was quite, there's an intensity there, and they had this crazy dog, and it's like I could feel it just being at home, and like there was something like over there. It was like it didn't feel right. So it didn't feel safe. So, I end up shutting down some of that. But you can't shut down sensitivity to bad without shutting down sensitivity to good, like the ability to feel. So ultimately it comes back to stillness and being stable enough to feel and perceive, to have that sensitivity, because sensitivity is a strength. But
Definitely.
when we think of it as a weakness, then it messes with our mind. It's like, should we feel, shouldn't we feel? But
Yeah.
there is a power and again a strength in the ability to feel and perceive, whether we're men or women or however we've been conditioned. We need to
Mm.
decondition that so we can allow ourselves to feel. And the work is not always comfortable. So, but there's always stillness in the background or that we can start to rest on.
I love the TED talk of Brené Brown, The Power of Vulnerability, because also
Mm,
she was deconstructing the term vulnerability, and that's the same
okay.
with sensitivity, because
Mm,
there's power in vulnerability and sensitivity, and there's a lot of
mm-hmm,
positive because sensitivity is about the more, like you say. I was also a sensitive boy, but that was very shut down because of a lot of bullying, a lot of abuse in my childhood. But now, thanks to the inner work of meditation and therapy, this sensitivity is coming back online. No,
mm,
and I would say my sensitivity is like there's joy and creativity in this
mm-hmm,
sensitivity, and it's like wow, we don't want to shut that down, or and
mm-hmm,
like you say, sometimes we have to deconstruct the sensitivity, the weakness, the reactive, but actually
mm-hmm.
there is a force behind. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I
Mhm.
think that when we really start to do the work, you realize that the reaction, that's not sensitivity, that's just what other people call us because they don't like or understand what's happening inside us, and maybe they're shut down themselves. But when we understand sensitivity as that fundamental ability to feel and perceive energy, emotions, information of ourselves and others, then there is a power in that. Yeah.
Yes, Ben, and it's so funny when you said 2001, you started your first meditation retreat. Me
Yeah.
too, eh?
Oh, really?
2001 was the first,
Yeah.
meditation retreat. And I remember it was a 10 days Vipassana retreat. And
Mm,
I think the first day or the second day, I was kind of, I got a kind of a panic attack in my heart or my chest. I
mm.
stood up and I went outside. And even one of the instructor came after me and, just talked to me. And I said, oh, this is not for me because I felt uncomfortable. Back then I didn't have a language,
Mm,
language to describe of what's going on. I just felt, "Ah, that's too much. I'm worried something is not right in me or the heart is pumping." But again, it's about, you know, doing the inner work. It is about go ups and downs, ups and
mm,
downs. And so how to help people, no? To
Mm,
navigate, because
yes.
sometimes we feel, oh gosh, do I really want to feel that?
Yeah, yeah, it's true, and it's easy to get into talk about it, but when you're like a fairly new, or even if you've been doing it for a while and you do hit one of those intense like troughs, or however you want to call it, of emotional experience or something intense, it's like it's no longer so abstract. It's like, whoa, this is actually uncomfortable. That's what that Alex guy was telling me or something. Like there is some discomfort, but it's kind of abstract until you feel it. And then you're really questioning, it's like, yeah, do I want to do this?
Yeah.
But then you keep going and
Yeah.
it passes.
Isn't
It's
isn't
like,
that beautiful? Because
mm,
on one side you keep going because you know there's a whole new world, there's
yeah,
clarity, there's wisdom,
yeah,
there's know-how. But on the other side is, hey, I remember another session I was lying down, my therapist was holding me in a one-on-one session, and I kind of felt backwards, a little
mm,
into a little deeper level of my body, into my space. And on one side, it felt, wow, I felt it felt good because suddenly there was more space and more feeling. But on the other
mm-hmm,
side is no, 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 until here, like a
yes,
controlling mechanism,
mm-hmm,
like, and it was just so interesting to see one part of me wants to do the work, another part is controlling, like
mm-hmm,
not so fast or just
yes.
as I say.
And I totally resonate with that as well. And I think it's true for all of us at some level. It's like that part of us who wants to control us, and then the part of us just wants to let go. And there was one student that I remember that I was with, like in the same school, and he said the mind is the great appropriator. So sometimes, you have a great experience, deep meditation or something, and then the mind goes, now I've got this. Now the mind thinks it can do it, and it tries to recreate it, but it doesn't work like that.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
It is just incredible how the mind, this big psyche, how it really functions with all these different defense mechanisms, subpersonalities, where
Mm,
consciousness can land. It is just incredible. And like you and I, we have done for many years meditation and therapy. I feel there's so much still to uncover or discover.
hmm
Mm.
hmm Yeah, agreed. It's like yesterday's stillness is today's noise, right? Like you have deep experiences and it's like, wow, this is so peaceful. But then, a few years later, it's like that stillness deepens or your experience deepens. And it's always like a continued deepening. Yeah.
Yeah, so good to talk to you, Benne, about our
Mm.
experiences about peace. Tell me, where are you based at the moment? Where do you work with people? In which city or country?
At the moment, I live in Canada, in North Vancouver. That's where I'm based. So at the moment, I work mostly online with people. Um, yeah, so online. So I've got my online
Mm,
courses or just
mm,
online. So
mm,
one-on-one. Um, some group things might be coming up in the future, but at the moment, this is how I'm doing
mm.
it for now. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I wanted to
hmm
ask a question because some people who might, listen to this podcast,
hmm
Vancouver, maybe it's close or maybe not, but they
hmm
resonate with your energy. They want to reach out and maybe they want to book a couple of one-on-one session to feel, the way you're holding them, you're guiding
hmm
them into this stillness and peace. And I always say these individual sessions are the greatest gift. Just
hmm
try out a couple of them and see for yourself or experience for yourself
Yeah.
because your experience is like you connect with a deeper sense of awe or
hmm
understanding. Mm.
hmm Yeah, and there's always yeah, and thank you for sharing that, Alex. Um, but yeah, and there's a resonance or like a connection between the therapist or the coach or whoever it is and the person going to see them. Like there's a relationship there that's like that resonance really helps. Like the level of resonance helps the work.
True, true. It
hmm
is also fascinating. Like the last 15 years, helping people. There are always people. I speak again for me. One moment, I resonate very deeply even if the therapeutic process is over, let's say that I have
Mm,
worked with certain people for 1 or 2 or 3 years, and it's over because they have reached a certain maturity and stillness, and where they feel comfortable. But even after years, I haven't seen them. Certain people are still kind of coming up here and then because the
mm,
bond was so profound. And
mm-hmm,
yeah, I find that fascinating how with
mm-hmm,
certain people we create deeper bonds.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes like the transformations people go through, it's like there was something really significant that happened like at that time and like
Mm.
and we are kind of part of that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. I still
Mm,
remember some sessions I gave maybe 10 years or 5 years ago.
mm,
They were so profound to them, but also
yeah,
for me. And
yeah,
sometimes I even can describe what happens and the spaces and
yeah.
the qualities that landed or opened. Mm.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
it's amazing like that. It's really hard to describe, but
Yeah.
um yeah, there's really something special about it.
Yeah. And I also find that, like you say, it's sometimes hard to describe, like people ask what we are doing or what I do,
Hmm.
and how to put words into what we
Hmm.
are doing. Of course, meditation, stillness, some people have a certain, understanding, but once they really dive in,
Mm.
it's a whole it's a deep understanding, like learning a new language.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's
Mm.
exactly. It's like a whole part of themselves they they've more forgotten. They
Yeah.
need to reconnect with, right?
Yes,
So,
the forgotten language or the
mm.
forgotten inner world.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think in the beginning, especially like for meditation, it's true for me and I've had, other people I've worked with and fellow students and share similar things. It's like in the beginning there is this sense of looking or finding stillness, like cultivating more stillness, but at a certain point it becomes a remembering. It's like we can have these experiences of stillness, and in the stillness there's like this nostalgia. It's like there's something in our body, in our heart that it remembers. And I think that's there's something really profound that happens at that level because it's like
Yeah,
it
the
was always
remember.
there. Hmm.
Yeah, the remembering.
Hmm.
Yeah, the know-how. And here we come one moment I would like to not just speak about, meditation and stillness, but you have a very beautiful phrase also because your work also integrates the heart. Mm.
Hmm.
And so, um, because it's not just a mental stillness, it's an overall
Hmm.
stillness where the heart little by little can open. Mm.
Hmm.
What is again the phrase? Can you tell me because I love it?
I, yeah, I just like to say quieten the mind so you can live from the heart,
Mm.
right? Because it's hard to live from our heart when our mind is full of noise and chaos trying to tell us what to do. But when that becomes quiet, then we naturally kind of drop into the heart and the more of the heart is available. And when I say heart, I mean like it's more like the essence of who we are. So yeah, quiet
Isn't
the mind, live from the
and
heart.
live from the heart. It's so beautiful. And you see, I always say this, what we are doing or what we are giving to people should be already in kindergarten or in the
Mm,
school, because to teach children already to have a balanced or quieter mindset, and especially uh, speaking from the heart, being from the heart,
mm.
creating safe spaces for children, our society would be different.
Oh, could you imagine? Like if children were taught this from a young age and then it was maintained and cultivated through school, like the society we'd have where people actually live from that space of peace and stillness and that and to me this is what it boils down to is that feeling of connection, right? Like when we're all connected at some level. And again, that's a bit abstract for people and it's easy to say, but when you really feel stillness and you really connect to your heart, you feel more connected to people. And it's when you feel connected to people, you don't do them harm, you know how to treat a person. But it's when we feel disconnected from people, and whether it's an emotional reaction, stress, anxiety, when we feel disconnected, then there's this sense of you versus me. There's a separation. We feel separate from people. And then we can do whatever we want. We can do anything to other human beings. And the horrific things that happen is because we don't feel connected. And even like the people that are closest to us, like family, friends, it's like, of course, it's that underlying connection, but in that moment of an emotional reaction or anger, it's like we feel disconnected. And it's that feeling. So when we feel connected, then we know how to treat each other. We feel connected to everyone. And yeah, so if we were to cultivate that from a young age, or everyone, but if we could do this for the children and people growing up, that would create a new
Yeah.
foundation for the world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Mm,
here we come back to the beginning about
mm,
bringing peace, peace
mm,
within, peace to the society, peace to our, children, grown-ups,
mm,
already bringing, education, this
mm,
peaceful education. Like you say, quieten your mind, because quieten your mind, you also can do things fast, very
mm,
productive, very, sufficient, but you do it also from this open heart, or live from
mm,
the heart, where you like say you connect.
mm. Yeah, so it has more integrity of how we interact in the world, right? Because when we feel connected, there's that feeling of us in the world,
Mhm.
as opposed to you versus me.
Ben, thank you so much for this little talk and podcast. I would love to finish that little, interview again, if you like to mention the little phrase from with your words.
Yeah, quiet your mind, live from your heart.
Thank you so much for listening. Ben, Alex, in the description, you have all our details, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Oh.